Folks, it's all right with everyone before we start. We're waiting on two to make a form. They are in the vicinity, so we want to wait on any of the folks for help explain that. That's not something, just so we can start the time manner, and then we'll kind of go back. That's so.
Sounds like a great idea.
Trying to move. Welcome everyone, August 24th, 2023, 6 p.m., School Building Committee meeting. At this time, what I would like to do is go over to Suffolk and Skanska for their presentation. Jim? Oh, excuse me. No, we'll do that afterwards. Yeah, we'll do that afterwards. That's correct.
Good evening, Mr. Manager. I'll pass it over to Suffolk. They will proceed through the Phase 2 construction update as well as the summer work construction update.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to go through the construction update first. Just going to share a couple images so everyone can walk through. Instead of me just calling areas of the building like Building F, Building D, Building C, corridor work, North Connector, and so forth, which we live in every day. So first thing I'd like to point out or start with is Building F. This is Building F here. That's the Freshman Academy. And so Building F is well underway. This is where I call the front of the ship, where most of the progress has taken place. We're well along with rough MEPs, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. From floor 2, that's where we always start, moving into 3, 4, 5, and then dropping down to 1. All of the systems are always a little taken back from one another, but floor 2 is the furthest along. And the reason why is because the crews will flow between each floor. Our big milestone there is closing up walls, drywall. It's actually a huge milestone for us within construction because drywall represents the final condition. Afterwards, we tape, sand, paint, and apply finishes. Everything before, it's such an effort to get there. So our first drywall date is actually tracking for 9/5. That's in a couple weeks. Once we hit that date, we'll continue with these drywall dates for each floor afterwards. That's F building, 3rd floor, 4th floor, 5th floor, D building, and so forth. We also have an interior framing date within the upper floors as well that we're tracking, but I won't get into the weeds there. As far as F building goes, we're in excellent shape. We actually even have stairs being poured right now. You can see in the photo. Actually, that's what the green pump is doing right now. That's another big milestone for us. That allows for natural egress through the building itself. Afterwards, we're going to be focusing on elevators, which will be taking place next month, actually. With that said, for F building, the next milestone we'll track after drywall will also be ceiling grid. So if you can think about it, the walls are done. We give ourselves a month to tape and sand the walls, paint them, but then we'll start to do ceiling grid. That's another big milestone for us because finally you're in a box that's finished, if you will. So we're very happy with where F is. As far as the facade goes, we're looking to start the mason actually on this elevation here, closest to us, within the next couple weeks. A lot of work has been put in for the exterior framing, sheathing, and waterproofing. The waterproofing is actually the silver that you see there. Once the mason starts, it's going to be a big push to get them completed on the job actually right after the new year. It's quite a bit of work. It's probably going to take 2 crews to get through and another winter of working with the mason. Why that's so critical for us is because we want them out of the way so we can start the landscaping package. There's quite a bit of landscaping within the Freshman Academy. It's not just the plantings, which is always the last thing that goes in, but it's more specifically the planting beds, which are cast in place concrete, but then also the sidewalks itself, which we call hardscape. So that's a fairly large package that we need to have completed between the early next year to the springtime when we go for inspections. So long-winded way on saying why masonry is so critical for us right now. As far as other areas of the building, I'm going to go to D building. This is the back end of the project where the gym is connecting with the existing 1980s building. This is another area of the project that is stepped back so slightly from F building. So if you could think about it, right now we don't have any MEPs that are really hitting this area yet. Some in just ever so slightly we have some, but not really the bulk of it. The idea is we're going to get through F, and those trades are naturally going to feed into D building itself. And then at the same time, that framing that you saw on this previous slide, or actually, the exterior walls, will start to creep into this area. This will be closed up in the next 4 to 6 weeks, actually. Our major milestone here is actually getting studs on the inside of the building, 10-1. One thing I'd like to point out, just for everyone else's, understanding, we track framing in 2 different areas. Exterior framing lets us keep the building dry, but interior framing lets us do what we call in-wall rough. 2 of them are major milestones that are actually independently driven. So our interior framing is tracking for October. That's a date that works for us, and actually would be the back end of that project. As I call the F building the front end, this is the back end. This is where the work needs to fall within.
October 24th.
I'm sorry?
October 24th.
October of this year, 2023, is what we're tracking for that interior framing date. Something else you see here, roofing material up top, that's where our roofers are right now. Talking about that exterior framing, keeping the building dry on the lateral side, we also are getting that roof on overhead on the horizontal side. That should be wrapped up by next week, so work within the building can take place without getting damaged. Naturally, if you can think about it, there's a progression between steel, no protection, and finishes where you need to have a lot of protection. There's always an awkward point in construction. This is what the job looks like at those awkward stages. With that said, other areas that we're going to fall within, or you'll see develop, is actually this is just a draw, or one of the plans that we're showing here is the South Bridge. I'm sure you folks have seen the bridge actually be put in place, but now we have the current wall ready to be installed, and we also have our MEPs coming from F building going to D and actually going to funnel through that South Bridge. So a lot of that work will start to take place in the fall timeframe, as anticipated. And a couple other things that we're tracking right now. Another big milestone for us, rooftop units. We have completed our first pick. It's where you can see one right here. This is a rooftop unit. Geez, I want to say we have 8 of them. I should know that number, but half of them are on the roof now, and the other half will be installed 8/31. So that's next week. Why that's such a big deal? Not just getting the units in place, but it allows us to turn the units on and get the building warm and conditioned. So when we come to painting in the wintertime and doing flooring in the wintertime, the building's not ice cold. So it's very important that these units are up and running as soon as possible. And so that's where we're at for the main job itself. As far as the summer work goes, we're just wrapping up, or we're coming down to our final days of 2023 summer work. More specifically, we've been able to get into about 8 different areas throughout the campus. And I'll just walk through real quickly. Sterile is the first area that we're starting to turn over now. That's where we've been able to cut into the side of the building and put that current wall, if anyone has seen that. The East Campus, we've also brought in electrical services for the East Campus, or the 1922 buildings. That allows us to get power into the building for actually phase 3. Really important that we had that done now. Roof, we've been able to address tie-ins at the roof between the new building and the existing building, which frankly we've been having difficulties with in the past, probably in the past year even. So that's finally been able to be addressed, and we're looking to take care of a lot of the water issues that we've been dealing with. We've also been able to get into the gym itself and work through some punch lists, address the gym floor. We're actually coming back to a touch on the gym floor next week on some other areas that need to be cleaned up quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but ever so slightly rather. But and then lastly, the 1922 building across the canal, as everyone can see on the other end. This is where the most amount of work took place for the summer. It's kind of incredible. We knew it was coming. We essentially provided foundations and structural support for a penthouse that is going to be installed for phase 3. These supports were continuous from the roof all the way down to the basement in 4 locations. To make it short, we had to cut a hole throughout each and every floor and attach to the beams, existing beams themselves, all the way down, which was an incredible feat. With that said, we're doing our finishing touches within those areas, and we're looking to start closing up some walls actually as quickly as tomorrow morning, where we still have walls open. I'm sure some folks in this room may know the areas I'm talking about. The idea there is to have those areas wrapped up by the time teachers and students come back, working through the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. If needed, we may even have some temporary measures, painted plywood here or there, that we would always come back and address. But quite a bit of feat to get that in place, and happy that that's done. We could then start to focus our efforts on getting that penthouse set by phase 3. With that said, our focus, I should say day to day, between tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's going to be on 5 things. Moving material, organizing it as we may have it throughout the site, cleaning off walks. Our walkways are relatively clean now from construction, but we want to be able to make sure those are swept clean. Picking up any trash, not just ours, but anything that may be next to limits of construction. We want no confusion there. Moving our fence line, and then also mobilizing Emmanuel, who's our landscape contractor, to do a landscape touch-up, mowing, seeding, etc., and cleaning up and stabilizing anything we may have gotten into. So similar to last summer, we're planning on working throughout the weekend and having this wrapped up. That's where we're at with the schedule.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if I at this time could hold any questions and go into a roll call, if the committee would entertain that. So moved. Second. Seconded by Mr. Kennedy. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Roll call.
Manager Golden?
Here.
Michael Vaughn? Here. Eileen Del Rossi? Liam Skinner? Richard Underwood? Here. Michael Fiato? Connor Baldwin? Present. Mark Byrne? Here. James Hall? Mayor Chow? David Peasley? William Samaras? Here. Edward Kennedy?
Here.
John Leahy? Rodney Elliott?
Here.
Mary Ann Manzi?
Here.
Jay Mason? Maria Sheehy, Benjamin Opara, Erica Harvey, John Haley, Paul St. Cyr. 12 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Appreciate that. Now, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like everyone to take a look at the acceptance of the minutes. Once you're completed with that, I'll take a motion to approve, amend, or not to approve. Move to approve by Mr. Samaras, seconded. Michael? Got it? Roll call. Right? Oh, no, sorry. Roll call. Wrong forum. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you all very much. Now, Rex, if we could open this up to any questions. Any questions on the first portion? Any questions on the first portion? Senator Kennedy.
Just generally, where do we stand with the project? In other words, are we on schedule, ahead of schedule, behind schedule? And do you foresee anything that might change that going forward in the next couple of months?
No, as far as the schedule goes, we are on schedule. However, there are critical activities that are coming up that have to take place when we say they need to take place. For example, the interior masonry has to happen when it happens. We have to get permanent power by November. We have to make sure that we're filling in D with our MEPs within the next month, or in the next couple weeks even. So to answer your question, yes. However, we have critical activities that, just by the nature of where we are in the job, have to be executed without any contingency otherwise.
And do you expect that that's not going to be a problem with those?
No, I do not plan, or I do not expect or foresee any problems with those.
Okay.
Yep.
So we should stay on schedule for the foreseeable, so we're doing pretty well, right? Or you're doing pretty well as far as the schedule.
On that metric, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I wish I could say we're months ahead, but we are on schedule, and that is a July 1st turnover.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Samaras.
Just a question, I mean, we've had some rainstorms that have done a lot of damage to, has that affected this project in any way? Or do you anticipate problems?
Yeah, this is a topic that is that's wholly in Suffolk's court. It's something that is very unfortunate. Anytime there's water in the building, there's no excuse. So I want to start there. It has not impacted the schedule of the job. However, it's definitely something that we have increased our efforts around on making sure that we could prevent, especially within the last week even. It hurts to even say, over a year of dealing with water, we've put provisions in place over the last week that is going to address it once and for all. But I do feel like the job is at the point where that is the case. We have a rainstorm coming tomorrow, and some of the provisions that we've put in is we've been able to accelerate roofing at that transition between new and old building. We've been able to provide better flashing, membrane flashing between the walls of the slab, or the walls of the new the demising wall, to prevent water from leaking in, and a handful of other measures. We're also going to have 4 laborers on site tomorrow at 3 o'clock, not necessarily as preventative, actually crossing my fingers not as preventative, but to monitor the situation. It's something that we really, really need to get around and address, because water in the building, even the smallest amount, is not acceptable.
Thank you.
Also, if I may add, where we have had water come in the building, last week we walked, and they've had repeat visits, an industrial hygienist through the building with an infrared scanner locating where there are wet areas, and all those areas were removed by Suffolk in the past week. So a hygienist has reviewed all of those areas.
Mr. Machado.
What's the expectation for Tuesday when students arrive?
So Tuesday, we have we have a handful of areas we're turning over, and I'll walk them down real quick. Stairwell, where we've cut into the side of the building, we're able to turn over in full, except for we'll have some plywood as a temporary condition where we cut into the masonry. That is painted. The East Campus, the electrical coming into the building, no one will, there won't be any, well, that will be turned over in full, I should say. It's an electric room. other than it's a room that we're building out, but no one will be entering in it. The gym is, we're turning over we're turning over, but we do need to come back to touch up some footmarks that were left due to some curing issues we were having, and then also restriping at the volleyball volleyball courts. And then the 1922s, where we're putting those columns in, the anticipation is to have that turned over in full, drywall, ceilings in. In the event that we cannot pour some of the infills, and I'm going to spare everyone the details on where, in time, we may have to temporarily plywood that area, only to come back and frame it up in tape and sand it over the weekend. It's one thing that contractors always have trouble with, is you cannot force joint compound to dry any faster than it has to dry. You cannot put that on double shifts. So it's a stubborn thing. With that said, that is the event, or that's the state that the job will be turned in. One last thing I failed to mention is within the 1922 building, on the basement level, there's some skid marks that are left over from the equipment we had within. We had reason to believe that we could get them up. They aren't coming up just as much as we'd like, so we would like to paint the floor, and it's similar color next week when the next week when the kids are out of the building. So, yep.
Also, it's safe to say all these items are cosmetic, not life safety.
Oh, certainly. Yep.
Further questions on the construction update? Further questions on the construction update? Seeing none? Thank you. Mr. Dowd?
I'll pass it on to Mr. Drown from Hercules.
Mr. Drown?
Thank you. A few meetings ago, we were asked to look at some interior spaces, and we've been working on those for you, and we have them for you tonight. And Robin will take us through the different spaces. We've developed some interior views for you adjacent to what they look like today. So you have a clear visual as to what the space is today and what they will be when they're finished.
So Don, who many of you know, has worked with the high school to develop a palette of an academic space that is different than the athletic, but we're complementary. Because as you know, when you walk into the gymnasium, there's a lot of use of the collegiate burgundy and athletic themed things. So as you'll see in a moment, this is complementary, but is intentionally a little more simplistic in its use of the accents. It's also designed to have a higher ed feel in terms of the maturity of the architecture, as a way to have the high schoolers get used to potential futures, and of that mentality of the approach to education. All right, so actually, can you go back to the floor plan, please? So I'll be showing you a couple different views, which are shown highlighted and with arrows. So it'll be as you walk into the building, which has that grand stair, a view from the stairs down, and then some highlighted classrooms and corridors. So just a few peeks of areas that are under construction today. And in the future, I can share some views of things in the future spaces, but I thought, let's show you what you're going to see next year. All right. So as I mentioned, this first one is as you enter the school. So when you go through our new front entry, this is the new double height space. You'll see that it is mostly of a palette of white with accents of the red, collegiate burgundy, which is, complementary to the gym, but it's to highlight areas. We also have a palette of a lot of wood. Studies have shown that natural materials are very successful in school environments. Oh, we slided on the second one. I'll let you know, Rex. Just give me a second. So on the left is the computer rendering of how it'll look. On the right is the view from today of what it kind of looks mid-construction. So you'll see the stairs of the seating area are already under development. The stairs that you would actually walk up are to be installed in a little bit. In the view, you also see the cafeteria, both first floor and second floor. And where you see the, in the construction photo, a little shininess, that is that temporary wall. So the view that you see in the rendering that shows glass that is a future surface you'll see. So this kind of shows you at the moment of how kids will have the cafeteria and entry, but there is more to be seen as the phases move on. Next. This is if you went up the stairs. So now you're on the second floor cafeteria that's designed for the freshmen and looking back down to the main entry. A focal point is the big media wall that we have that you'll see, and it is available for the school to show highlights from athletic events, advertisements for class plays, club meetings, and so forth. The cafeteria has a lot of wood. The ceiling is designed acoustically because with all these kids having meals, we're very aware that they will bring a lot of energy into the space. You'll see that furniture is flexible to allow the kids have different options when eating or to be used non-mealtime for clubs, social gatherings, before school, after school, however the school wants to use it. Next. So this is a typical hallway. Of new construction, but the areas of renovations will actually be quite similar, although most noteworthy in the east, where we have terrazzo, we keep it. But you'll see the palette of our linoleum floors, the lockers, some different tones to give it a little bit of a rhythm. But the kids are going to bring the energy, and the space is going to be lively. There's opportunities for kids to have seating. So if they pull out or just a moment to rest is available. And daylight comes in. We have windows from classrooms. Next. This is a classroom. So this is the view as if you were in the back of the class. On the walls, you see white surfaces. This is a design for a classroom with writing surfaces on all. So it is not centric to one surface, that the teacher can be having groups in different walls, and so it's very flexible. Daylighting is available. As you see on the left side, and as you see under construction, how well it daylights with just a little bit of, they have temporary lights, but that's not what's illuminating the space. Also on the right, there's storage for the teachers, and the classroom furniture is completely flexible. So we're showing tables and chairs, but conversations with teachers will include exactly what kind of furniture they need. But it can be in rows, it can be in clusters. Flexible for which class and how they teach. Next. This is a science lab. Big difference in a science lab versus regular classroom is the casework and the connections that they have for gas and sinks and so forth, but similar in its flexibility of furniture, daylight opportunities, and such. So that kind of just gives you a peek of some key spaces that are under construction.
Okay, we'll kick it to Jim for the budget update.
Thank you. As always with the budget summary, the most important number is the construction contingency. We have $18.7 million remaining in construction contingency. That is with 12 change orders to date. Another important number is the city has received $91.8 million in reimbursement from the state to date for the $144 million that has been spent to date, and that tracks a couple months behind based on getting reimbursement from the state. Moving on to the budget update. This is a condensed version. We send a full version of the budget update to Mr. Baldwin with the invoices every month. And as I stated, we have we've invoiced $144 million to date through the month of July. And that is the budget update. We move on to, for the handouts, I won't go through it, but we have a summary of the OAC, monthly summary of the OAC, which is owner, architect, contractor meeting minutes. That is our main meeting that we have every Thursday morning at 8:30. So we've provided a summary of that. We also provided a summary back in July, which was an off month for the meeting, but we provided the full package. And after that, I believe we get to, do we have any questions?
Mr. Baldwin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. I just wanted to add a maybe additional point to complement Mr. Dowd's presentation on the budget related to the city budget and the financing of the project. So we are, for the benefit of my colleagues here on the school building committee, we are scheduled to sell a bond in September that will include $30 million worth of the city's local share to finance the project. To date, we've sold about $60 million. So that'll bring us right under 90, and this is sort of paying forward for the cash flow. But we're hopeful that our strategy of financing this in tranches is a good one. We've benefited from pretty good rates in the market. They're starting to move up at this point, but we're hopeful that we're able to secure a good rate in September. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Any further questions? Any further questions on finance? Mr. Dowd, anything further?
I do not. I believe.
I apologize, Representative.
What type of rates are we looking at now versus a year ago or 2 years ago? I know the city was very successful in refinancing to get better rates.
So the question by Representative Elliott, for the folks at home, what are the rates looking like? What are the rates looking like from the bank, Mr. Baldwin?
I'm happy to answer that, Mr. Manager. The rates that we have on the outstanding debt that we're paying the debt service on now, we have benefited from very low rates in a very low rate environment to date. Each one of those issuances to get us to the 59.5 were well under 3%. In some cases, 2%. At a certain period, you could borrow money for nothing, essentially selling municipal debt. What we're looking at for the $30 million component of the bond that we're going to sell in the fall, it's difficult to predict because it's based on the market rate at the moment we sell. But 3.75 would be what I hope for at this point. When we look forward to the next time we're in the market, which will likely be September of next year, the trend has been on an upward swing. But to answer your question directly, I'm hopeful 3.75 is what we're looking at for September. And I'd be happy to follow up with the committee if you were interested the next time we meet.
No, that's good. That's the information I was looking for. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Dowd?
Thank you. Also included in the attachments are an updated summary schedule that we are providing monthly. And as stated before, if any of the committee members would like to be walked through the drawings, our office door is always open over in the boot mill. And the next final item is next steps. As Mr. Radloff said, we have a big push in the next 3 days for teachers arriving first thing Monday morning, and then the fall is also a big push to get both buildings tight before the snow flies. So that's where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dowd. Please let the record reflect, Mr. Skinner, Mr. Fiato, thank you very much for joining us. I understand that you're at another meeting, and thank you very much for making time to be here. At this time, I entertain questions, thoughts, concerns. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns? Representative Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Could you just speak to the contingency budget update? I'm looking at the third column, encumbered to date, totals through GMP is the total contingency is 21.2 million, and is 18.7 encumbered or
18.7 is remaining.
Okay.
18.7 is remaining.
Because I look at the column at the top and it says encumbered, and that makes me a little nervous. But that's what remaining. Okay.
That is there's a lot going on in this crossing of columns, but that is, you can rest assured that is the remaining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Elliott, you'd think that the guy that wears glasses would help us out here, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, last call. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Questions, thoughts, and concerns? Seeing none, and entertain a motion to adjourn. Senator Kennedy, Mr. St. Cyr, all in favor? All opposed? Thank you all very much.